Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning into this week's edition of the Original Strength Podcast. Got a very special guest this week, Miss Melody Schoenfeld. And if you don't know her, you're about to know her. She is fantastic. She's a little bit of everything. She was to 2019 NSCA Personal Trainer of the Year. She's a massage therapist. She's a singer. She's an author. She's a power lifter. Did I leave anything? Oh, you're an entrepreneur. She's an entrepreneur. She's just all things terrific. Melody, thank you for being on the show.
No problem, man.
So, how long have you been a personal trainer?
Oh my God. I believe I'm going on 25 years now.
25 years? Wow.
25 years.
How young are you?
I am I am going to be 47 in a few weeks.
I hope you don't mind me asking you that, but you just do so many amazing things, and you do not look like you're 47. So that's awesome.
I don't feel like I'm 47, and I don't normally, I'm not embarrassed of my age. I just don't really talk about it much because it kind of doesn't really factor into most of what I do. So I don't even think about it really too much, unless it's around my birthday, in which case, then it's everything, because it's my birthday is October 4th, and now I'm kind of like, holy crap, I'm going to be 47.
Wow. So you've been training for 25 years.
Yeah, which is weird to think about because I guess the average lifespan of a personal trainer career is about 7.
Really?
Yeah. Most people burn out within 7 years.
And you're just now peaking, right? You're just getting started.
I'm just getting started as far as I'm concerned, yeah.
So you're also getting your master's degree in Chinese traditional medicine, is that right?
No. Actually, I did that a long time ago. I did not complete it. I got interested in Chinese medicine because acupuncture worked on my cat really well.
Really?
And when it works on your cat, that's something that is not a placebo effect. And so I was very intrigued by it. Basically, what happened was I had a cat with liver failure. And I was kind of like, I don't care. I'll just do whatever to try to improve my cat's quality of life and maybe get a little bit more time with her. And this was not a nice cat. When you brought her to the vet, she would not get out of her cage. She would hiss and spit and try to bite everybody, and just these weird guttural growls coming out of this little thing. And the vet was just basically like, well, why don't we try acupuncture? I said, sure, why not? Why don't we try acupuncture? And this little growling cat got stuck full of needles and sat there and purred the whole time, which sometimes a cat will purr because they're nervous. So that's not unexpected. But then when he took the needles out, she continued to purr and rolled over on her back and showed her belly. And I've never seen her do that in my life. So I was like, okay, there's something to this. And then just a few weeks later, I audibly popped a hamstring. Like, you could hear it. And I was a mess. And I had to do a race the next day, which I'm not a runner, but I had agreed to do this race. And there happened to be an acupuncture clinic down the street from where I lived at the time. And I was like, well, whatever, I'll just try it because it worked on my cat. Maybe it'll work on me. So I went in and I limped in there. I walked out. I ran a race the next day. So I was very intrigued by this. And
That's
so
amazing.
I studied it. Yeah, it was really cool. I'm a skeptic by nature. So if I experience it myself, or if I watch it work, I usually want to explore more. So I studied it for a while. I learned how to do all the needling, and then I wasn't enjoying the studies at all, and it wasn't what I wanted to do, so I quit. So I never completed that degree. I did get my master's in health psychology, and with a concentration on food psychology. So I did that a few years ago. So that's what I got my studies in.
So you're still a competing powerlifter, is that correct?
I haven't competed since 2016. My last competition, well, it's not too far away. I just, life got in the way and I didn't have time, and I kind of didn't want to take time off work to go to meets. So I stopped competing. It wasn't that much of a priority for me. And I did one strongman competition and in 2016 as well. And then, kind of almost competed a bunch and then just didn't. But I might compete this year at the end of the year. There's a strongman competition called the 805 Strongest. I'm thinking about doing that one.
So is 2016 the year that I read you pulled 385 pounds off of 18-inch blocks?
Yep, that was that year.
That is crazy.
I pulled Yeah, I pulled a truck hand over hand, and I did that deadlift and yeah, all kinds of other fun stuff.
So I've already asked you a way too personal question about your age, but when you pulled the 385 pounds, how much did you weigh?
I weighed a little less than 110 at the time.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm usually between 105 and 110, just kind of depending on the time of day. So I had before I went there, I just like ate a lot, and just to try to get my weight up because it helps you lift more if you weigh a little more. But I don't really want to weigh. I'm happy where I am, so I didn't really want to like gain weight or anything. But I just kind of ate a lot just to have some extra weight on me. I don't know if it helped or not, but it was pretty cool to lift that much.
Well, so I think what's really fascinating about that and the stuff you have done with the strongman performing and the bending of nails and things and horseshoes, because I've seen all kinds of these cool pictures of you all over the internet. You're you're a vegan, is that right?
I am. Yes, I've been vegan for 20 years, more than 20 years now.
Really?
Hmm.
So now you're also the longest running vegan that I've ever known. So that's really fascinating. How?
Yeah, I was vegan before vegan was cool.
Yes, you were, but you're still so super strong.
Well, I don't think that there is a correlation. I get the correct nutrition, I get the right amino acids and everything, and basically, if you look at the research, and honestly, I've done a fair amount of research on this. I've published in the Strength and Conditioning Journal on nutrition for vegan athletes, and I've done a fair amount of research on this. The research on strength and veganism is lacking. So there's not a lot of research on strength and veganism. There's not a lot of research on any athletics and veganism, other than maybe some endurance sports. But the research that's out there is very kind of limited and generally focuses on one sport, like running, endurance sport. Most of it is not long-term research, and most of it is very small pool of subjects. So it's not the best research in the world. But the research that exists, there's absolutely nothing about veganism that improves your strength and nothing about it that decreases your strength, as long as you're doing it properly. The biggest issue that a vegan will have is, in general, you won't get enough calories. A lot of people do, they jump on the vegan bandwagon as kind of a mask for an eating disorder. And so a lot of people are like, well, if I tell people I don't eat meat, I have an excuse to not eat as much. I have an excuse to not, and it's the calories get quite low, but you can also do it unintentionally. If you're eating a lot of vegetables and not a whole lot else, you can, lose a fair amount of weight because they're very nutrient dense, but not real calorically dense. You can be too light in calories on the vegan diet, but there's plenty of people who can get it. I get plenty of calories. I am a big fan of calories. And so I get plenty of them, and it's done. And, it's been done by, there's bodybuilders. There's a 300-pound football player who was vegan, who ate I think he ate something like 10,000 calories a day, something insane like that. And he showed his whole diet and everything. I don't remember what he ate, but he just ate insane amounts of food. But it can be done. And there's absolutely no reason you can't be just as strong as anybody else. And a lot of people, I get this argument, well, you might be stronger if you weren't vegan. I might be, but there's absolutely no proof of that. And honestly, for me, I'm vegan for moral reasons. So even if it meant I would get to lift an extra 50 pounds, it wouldn't be enough to convince me to not be vegan, because it's my morality. It's what I believe in. So that's what I do.
You get plenty of calories.
I do.
What does a typical a day for you look like as far as your eating goes?
So I have pretty crazy days. I work 3 jobs, and so my days are a little bit insane. And so I usually go to work around, I'm up at 4 in the morning this day. And I usually go to work around 5:30, just depending on when my first client is, sometimes 6:30 if I'm lucky. And so I don't have a ton of time to eat breakfast. And so my breakfast is almost always a protein shake. And I use, I go through a whole bunch of different types of vegan proteins because most of them don't taste that good. But I found a couple that I can stomach. So I'm using right now the Live Body protein. It's a Live Body. And that one's all right. It mixes well. It doesn't taste terrible. And I don't have to choke it down. So it works. And so I usually mix that up with there's a company called Good Karma. They make a flax milk, and they have it with 8 grams of added protein to it. So I have 24 grams of protein in my shake from mixed sources, which if you're a vegan, you should get your protein from mixed sources because you don't get all the amino acids you need as a general rule in most vegan proteins, depending on the protein. So mixed sources is a good way to make sure you kind of cover all your bases. And then I get extra protein from the milk, and then I usually have some creatine in there, and that's my breakfast. And then I go to work, and I work for some either 3 hours or sometimes 5 hours or 6 hours, just depending on how busy my morning is. And then I'm usually pretty hungry, but I have things to do, so I run home. I have a protein bar usually. So it sounds like my diet is a lot of like garbage, but it's really, this is something that kind of bothers me, is when people say, oh, you're not eating real food. Well, if you look at the ingredients of the food that I'm eating, it's pretty real. Like, that's not fake food, and it's providing me with the nutrients that I need. So, for instance, my protein shake, it's protein and it's vegetables and it's all kinds of things mixed into that. And so that's not real food. It just happens to be in powder form.
Right.
The protein bars that I eat also, it's just protein. That's all. So I recently have started liking these I think they're called no moo bars or no cow bars, and they're about 20 grams in a bar, and it keeps me full until I'm able to go and eat lunch, which takes a while sometimes. Okay, so a lot of times I don't get to eat lunch until about 1 o'clock. Lunch for me is usually, so I usually have a packet of tofurkey. I don't know if you've had tofurkey before, but it's vegan meat, and a lot of people are anti-meat analog, and they say, it's processed, la-di-la-di-la. Look, it's a convenient source of protein. It doesn't make up my entire diet. And there's absolutely no research to show that it's detrimental to your health, right? And so I'm pretty fine with eating that. And then I usually have some Ezekiel bread with it. I might have like a vegan grilled cheese. Well, I like the VioLife vegan cheese, so I usually have a grilled cheese with that. I have some fruit, and I have some kind of a green vegetable with that. So that's usually my lunch. And dinner varies all the time. I love to cook. It's just a matter of whether or not I'll get the opportunity to cook, how much time I have to cook, that kind of thing. So I try to make something that'll last a couple days. Last night I did like this kind of mishmash of pigeon. Do you know what pigeon peas are?
I do not.
They're really used a lot in the Caribbean, particularly in Puerto Rico, places like that. And so I like them. They're fairly high in protein and nutrients, things like that. So I have some cans of that. I just kind of grabbed what I had around the house. So I had some brown rice, and I had that with tomatoes and some veggie broth and some vegetables, and I forget what else I put in there. Anyway, so just a whole bunch of things, and then I just threw it in the Instant Pot, and now I have this kind of rice and beans kind of high protein thing that I had for dinner, and that was really good. So, and then I get takeout sometimes.
So for maintaining your weight and being able to perform your 4 jobs and maintain your strength, do you strive for a certain amount of protein in a day or calories in a day?
I don't really count that much because I'm pretty used to how much food my body needs at this point. But that said, I try to get in a minimum of 20 grams of protein every time I eat. And so if I eat 4 times a day, which usually it's 4 times a day, if you count the protein bar as being one time, it's usually 4 times a day. And so that'll be a minimum of 80 grams of protein, but it's usually quite a bit more than that because I, like my lunch alone generally has like 35 to 40 grams of protein in it. And then my dinner usually has quite a bit, like usually like 45 or 50 grams, just depending on what I cook. So yeah, so it's so I usually get a fair amount of protein.
And when you mentioned the tofurkey and you said there's no evidence to show that it's detrimental to your health, were you talking about soy or something else?
Well, soy also, a lot of people have a problem with soy, and there's the evidence to back that up is very, very paltry. There's soy has not been shown to cause problems with hormones. It has not been shown to turn men into women. It has not been shown to make you weaker. It doesn't do any of those things. It's really been hyped up too much. But then a lot of people have problems with meat analogs in general. They're like, oh, well, that's processed food. It's so processed, it's not real food. I don't agree with that. there's nothing showing that it's detrimental to your health, and it does provide a source of nutrients and protein. And so for me, it's kind of a no-brainer because it's convenient. I don't have to spend a lot of time cooking it. It's got a fair amount of sodium in it, so I guess if you have problems with sodium, I don't. But if you do, then I guess it's probably not the right thing for you. But for the most part, it's an easy, convenient source of protein that I don't have to spend a lot of time preparing, because I have a lot of stuff to do in the afternoons, and I need to make things as convenient as possible. So for me, that's easy. And then, it's a texture and taste thing. It's interesting, to your palate when you're, you don't want to just have to eat vegetables all day long. There's other things, and so you try different things. It's pretty cool. And on the weekends, I really like to kind of make special breakfasts. So I'll do like waffles or pancakes or some kind of. I make this kind of hash with. There's a company called Abbott Butcher. They're not actually a butcher; they're a plant butcher. So they do like different kinds of like sausage and things like that I really like. They're made from pea protein, and so I'll make hash out of that to go with everything, and so that's always fun too.
So you actually, because you do like to cook, you have you have a cookbook that you've written called Pleasure Not Meeting You. MEAT.
Pleasure Not Meeting You. Correct. Yeah. My friend, I wish I could take credit for that because I am a fan of the puns, but my friend actually came up with that title. Yeah.
It is very clever. I like it. So when you work with clients, or I'm assuming you have helped people who want to switch over to a plant-based diet, how do you help them get started? Do you, like, I'm sure you have steps and stages for them to go through, or like, what's the best way for somebody that wants to explore being a vegan? How should they go about it?
I mean, it's a very individual thing. To me, it's very important that I don't push my diet on anybody else. Mm-hmm. So if somebody approaches me and says that is something that they're interested in, then I will absolutely help them. But I will never try to make somebody go vegan, because that's a very personal choice. And my morality is not your morality or anybody else's. And so I'm not going to try to push that any more than I would push, if I was a religious person, any more than I would push a religion on somebody. This is kind of my religion, and so I don't believe in pushing belief systems on other people unless they really want to learn more about it or make the attempt to convert. If you're going to go vegan, I kind of approach it the same way I approach any lifestyle change, in that as a general rule, you're not going to be successful if you jump in with both feet. And so with any lifestyle change, it could be if you're trying to lose weight, it could be if you're trying to gain muscle, whatever. As a general rule, if you try to do everything at once, it's not going to be sustainable. You're not going to do it long term. And so I recommend doing it one step at a time. That's how I did it. I started out, I cut out when I was like 5. I really liked lobster as a 5-year-old, and I was a very expensive child. And then it never occurred to me that the lobsters in the tank, which I really like to look at, were the lobsters on the plate. And the lobsters in the tank always kind of made me really sad, because you could see that their claws were rubber banded shut. And even at 5 years old, that was like really sad to me, and I didn't understand why they were in the tank in the first place, and I didn't understand why their claws were rubber banded shut, and it just kind of made me sad. And then one day we went to a restaurant as a family, and it was a restaurant where they would bring the lobster to the table for you to choose. And then I made that connection as a 5-year-old and was just kind of like, well, not eating lobster anymore. And so I did that as a very young child. So I was kind of already on that path, even as a kid. So kind of just where my heart was. And then when I was in the 8th grade, we went on a school trip to. Did you have those 18th century villages when you were in people, like, yes, where you go and watch people spin flax and stuff? Yeah, okay. So we went to one of those, and they had like 18th century kind of butcher thing. They had like a butcher thing, and so there was a full-on cow hanging upside down to dry, and I was done with beef at that point. And
my field trips did not have the hanging cow, so I didn't have that far.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm the only kid from my class who remembers this, but it left a very deep impression on me. And when I saw that, I was like, yep, I can't do that anymore. And then actually, when I was in college, I wasn't really trying to quit anything, and I realized I hadn't eaten chicken in 2 months. And I was like, oh, well, well, I can do that. I wasn't even trying. So I stopped eating chicken, but I really didn't understand the whole vegan thing at all. And every vegan I met was very off-putting. They were, the kind of the you're a bad person if you don't do what I do kind of vegans. And I don't like being yelled at, and I don't need somebody shaming me for my choices. And that's one of the reasons why I feel so strongly about not doing that to other people. It's none of my business, honestly. I mean, obviously, I would love it if no animal ever got killed ever again. But I can't shove my morality in somebody else's face and expect them to follow suit. That's not the way things are done. So anyway, when people were shaming me for being vegan, it made me more determined to not be vegan, to be honest. Like, I didn't want to be vegan. I thought those people were stupid and they were rude and I didn't want to be like them. And I would, just to kind of in your face, yeah, well, I'm gonna have some eggs, right? So what ended up happening was I met some vegans who said, probably, like, I didn't understand the whole thing about like why you wouldn't eat eggs or milk, because I was like, well, you don't kill the chicken to get the eggs and you don't kill the cow to get the milk, so I didn't get it. So I met some vegans and they seemed nice, and so I was like, okay, well, let me ask them, kind of with bated breath, because I was just expecting them to yell at me again. But these particular people were super chill, and all they said was, you know what, why don't you go and do some research and let us know what you find out? And that's like the best thing anybody could have said to me, because I have my research channels that I trust that don't feel like propaganda to me, And so I went and did that, and I was like, oh, okay, I can't keep doing that. That doesn't fit with what I believe. And so I just went full on vegan. So I did it in stages, and that was quite sustainable for me. And so I really kind of recommend that other people do it in stages as well. Just, you can start with a meatless Monday and see how that goes. Or you can start with, maybe I can just try red meat, cutting out red meat, see how that goes, that kind of thing. And then just doing it one step at a time. And I really recommend kind of researching how to do it properly, because you don't want to end up like my sister's ex-husband decided to go vegan or vegetarian or something, but he didn't like vegetables. And so all he ate really were like Doritos. And that's not a good way to do things. And he obviously didn't stick with it for very long. So I don't really recommend that at all. But you need to do it in a healthful way. So you need to research how to do it properly. And you have to be careful about the research that you do, because there are a lot of propaganda videos, propaganda magazines, things like that want you to feel like this is the simplest thing in the world and you don't even have to think about supplementation or anything like that, because they really want you to be vegan, so they don't want you to have to think about that kind of thing. But you do have to supplement, because you don't get everything you need from a vegan diet. And so it's not like you're just popping pills all day long, but there are certain things that you're not going to get in a vegan diet that you should probably supplement.
Just for the sake of education, what would be the things that you would want to supplement to make sure that you're getting everything you needed?
Well, I do recommend a protein supplement, not because it's not possible to get protein from your food, but just because it's easy. And it couldn't hurt to get the extra in there. There's nothing detrimental about having extra protein in your diet. A lot of people are like, oh, too much protein is bad for you, bad for your kidneys. It's not. There's no research to back that up. If you personally have a problem with protein when you eat too much, then obviously don't go that route. But in general, a normal healthy person can eat a lot of protein without any damage, right? They actually did a study, and I don't even know how this even worked, but they did a study. Jose Antonio, I believe, was the main author of the study. But they did this whole thing where they had people eat 4 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, which is an insane amount of protein. I don't know how anybody eats that much protein, but they had people do it. They succeeded in it, and they found that for an extended period of time on this diet, these people not only had benefits in their body composition, and they were eating a hypocaloric diet, which means they were eating more food than they were burning off. They had a higher calorie intake. Not obviously by thousands, but by more than what they were burning off. And they found that these people had benefits in body composition. They had more lean muscle. They didn't really gain a lot of fat, and they had no detrimental effects. So if you're a normal healthy person, you can eat quite a bit of protein without any problems. So yeah, I would recommend a protein supplementation. I would recommend a creatine supplementation. Vegans do not get creatine in their diets because we don't eat muscle. And creatine is one of the most heavily researched supplements out there. It does not have side effects. You might experience some water weight gain with it, but it's very, very minimal. And most people don't. And it has remarkable effects on recovery and strength. When I can see a difference in my performance when I don't take it. So it's a good one. It's also got a lot of cognitive benefits. So if you've got a grandma, have her take it too, because it's good. A lot of vegetarians and vegans, going vegetarian or vegan does not necessarily mean you will become anemic, but it is common, right? Just because the type of iron that you get as a vegan or a vegetarian isn't as well absorbed by the body. It doesn't necessarily follow that it's not a necessary thing. I've never had to take an iron supplement and I've never been anemic, but it is something that you want to look at as a vegetarian or vegan. You want to make sure you're getting enough iron in your diet. You probably need more than what the FDA recommends, significantly more, usually almost double what the FDA recommends. So that's important. Another thing I recommend is an omega-3 fatty acid supplement because we don't eat fish. And fish actually, so there's DHA and EPA. That's a branch of omega-3 fatty acids. Your body can't convert that from just an omega-3. So if you're eating just like flax seeds or walnuts or something like that, your body can't take the omega-3s from that and convert it to DHA and EPA. Your brain is about 80% DHA. And your eyes are full of it as well. And so you need that for proper brain function, for proper eye function. It's an anti-inflammatory. It's really good for you. When fish have omega-3 fatty acids, they actually get it by eating the algae. They don't have it naturally. They get it because they eat the algae. So you can get it from the algae directly. It's not contaminated like fish might be. So that's good. And it tends not to go rancid like fish oil does, or not as quickly anyway. So, and it doesn't give you fish burps, which is nice. So I do recommend vegan DHA and EPA supplement. The one thing that vegans definitely need to supplement, so what I've been naming are things that are like, it's a good idea, right? The one thing that you really need to supplement is B12. We get none of it in our diet. Your body can produce it on its own to some degree, but like it's in your colon, but you really need to eat it. It's pretty common to have a B12 deficiency as a vegan if you're not getting it in your diet. One of the easiest ways to get B12 is to include nutritional yeast in your recipes. Nutritional yeast is full of B12, so it's a great source of it, and it's a good source of protein as well. Or else you can take a supplement. And then another one, and honestly, it's not just vegans. Everyone's deficient in vitamin D. Like if you go to your doctor, I guarantee you your doctor will do a blood test and say, oh, you need to take vitamin D. People don't go outside enough. People don't get enough sun. People use a ton of sunscreen, and so you don't have enough vitamin D. So the vegan form of vitamin D is not as well absorbed as the carnivorous version, but they do have a vegan form that is the same. It's a vitamin D3. So normally the vegan form is D2. And that one, you don't want to take that one. You can get as a supplement the vegan D3, which actually comes from sunlight. They make it in spores. So the spores pull the sunlight and they form D3. And so it's much better absorbed by your body. I do recommend taking that as well.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So with your cookbook, is it just recipes you love, or is it how to put food together, how to put flavors together?
Well, so what I tried to do was a couple things. The reason I wrote the cookbook was because I really wanted to put a book out about kind of a layman's synopsis of the science on veganism that we currently have.
Awesome.
And obviously this is a very developing science because there's not a ton of research, and certainly not long-term or well-designed research on veganism. So there's a few epidemiological studies. But then again, epidemiological studies are not the best studies because there's a lot of factors that come into play with them, and you can't always say for sure what the cause of a specific outcome is. So when you have an epidemiological study, that basically means we're looking at your lifestyle and we're kind of pulling a few things from it, and we're saying, okay, these things are related to an outcome that we're looking at. So maybe we're looking to see if broccoli helps cure cancer. Right, something like that. So people who eat a lot of broccoli, these people filled out this form. They said they eat a lot of broccoli, and look, they don't have that much cancer. So we're going to say that probably broccoli doesn't cause cancer, right? It's not a great conclusion because what else are these people's lives like? What kind of environment do they live in? How much stress do they have? That kind of thing. So a lot of factors can come into play here. So we can say, okay, there's a common thread that may be related to this outcome, but it's not for sure. So there's a lot of epidemiological studies like that on veganism, but we cannot say for sure that the outcome is a direct result of whatever it is we're looking at, right? The other thing is that a lot of these studies aren't well designed. They're not long term. We don't know the very long term outcomes of certain things. So a lot of study needs to be done on this, right? But that said, I kind of took all the science that's out there right now, or as much of it as I could get my hands on, and I kind of did a little synopsis. Okay, if you're gonna go vegan, this is how you do it properly. These are the nutrients you're going to need. You may need to supplement some of these, and here's where you can get them from. So that's kind of what I did. And then I tried to do some myth busting too. So I did the myth busting on soy. I did the myth busting on, vegans are all weak. I did the myth busting on all that stuff. And I did it in such a way that it was as unbiased as possible, because most of what's out there is super biased with the intention of converting you. I don't have any skin in the game here. I don't need you to go vegan. I just want to educate you if you decide you're going to do it. So what I did was I had my book. I had Mike Israel. Do you know Mike Israel is?
No, I don't.
Okay, so he's kind of really well known in the strength sports, and he's really well known in the nutrition game. So I had him look at my book. I had Jose Antonio, who's the head of the ISSN, look at my book. I had my brother, Brad Schoenfeld, look at my book. So I had a lot of decidedly non-vegan people with a lot of knowledge in the nutrition area look at my book and tell me that the information was valid. Okay, so that was important to me. And then I had a whole bunch of space that I had to fill. So I decided to make it a cookbook. So I was like, all right, well, if you're going to do this, let's find some palatable things that you might enjoy, right? So I tried to create recipes that were not only, relatively healthy, but that probably if you eat a lot of meat, you would still enjoy them. So I included my favorites. I tried to make them as easy to make as possible. I tried to include kind of ingredients that are not that hard to find, and I tried to make them relatively high protein as a general rule. So that's what I did.
Awesome. Pleasure Not Meeting You is the name of the book, everyone. I'll put that in the notes of the show. And she has been busting the myth for 20 years that you can't be strong and be vegan. I don't think you just proved that in the book. I think you've been living that out for quite a while. Melody, thank you so much for being on the show with me today.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Hey, guys, thanks for listening to the Original Strength Podcast. We'll see you next time.
We hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Original Strength Podcast.